Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always exciting to jump into a new topic.
Well, today we're going to be looking at body positivity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that affects everyone, right?
You're not wrong about that.
I mean, we all have a body and we all have to figure out how we feel about it.
And how society wants us to feel about
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And how all that pressure and messaging from everywhere really impacts us.
Definitely.
And today we're going to be focusing on a blog post
Oh, cool. Bye.
by Minam Cern.
Oh, yeah, I've seen her stuff before.
And she's going to be sharing some of her personal experiences on this whole journey of body positivity.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really insightful.
Especially because, well, everyone has a story, right?
That's so true. Everyone has their own journey and their own struggles and triumphs.
Definitely.
And one of the things that Minam Cern talks about is how she grew up in a traditional Thai household.
Okay.
And she mentions how comments about appearance were just like a normal part of life. You know, just those little things that people would say, those offhand remarks.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sometimes they can seem harmless, but sometimes they can really stick with you.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Like imagine constantly hearing things like,
Like what?
you've gained weight, haven't you? Or should you be eating that?
Oh, yeah.
Like even if they're meant to be helpful,
Right.
those words can really sting.
For sure.
And, you know, she even calls it trauma wrapped in tradition, which I think is such a powerful way to describe it.
It is powerful.
It's like these patterns of behavior and ways of thinking about bodies just get passed down through generations.
Yeah, it's like it's not even intentional sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not even always recognized.
It's just ingrained in the culture and the way people interact with each other.
Yeah. But before we go too far down that road,
Sure.
can you explain a bit more about this whole idea of generational trauma?
Sure. It sounds intense, right?
Yeah.
It does. Generational trauma basically means that traumatic experiences, whether individual or collective, can impact families across generations.
I see.
It's not just about inheriting genes. It's about inheriting coping mechanisms and ways of thinking.
Wow, that's heavy.
Yeah. Think of it like this. If your parents or grandparents experienced hardship, their ways of dealing with that hardship, even things like their views on body image, can unconsciously get passed down to you.
So in Amanda Cern's case,
Yeah.
her family might be repeating patterns they learned from their own upbringing, even if they don't realize they're doing it.
Totally. They
Yeah.
can be totally oblivious to it.
It's like their own insecurities and anxieties about body image are being projected onto her.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be aware of these patterns.
I'm with you.
Because awareness is the first step toward breaking free from them.
Well, and Minam Cern definitely doesn't shy away from confronting these patterns.
That's awesome. How?
But she talks about learning to tune out the negative comments.
Okay.
But did she give any specific tactics for doing that? Because for a lot of people, that's easier said than done.
Oh, yeah, for sure. She did. She compares it to turning down the volume on a radio.
Oh, yeah.
Just choosing not to give those comments the power to affect her mood.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a good visual.
Yeah, and she doesn't stop there.
Right.
Right.
What else does she do?
She also talks about directly calling out those unhelpful remarks.
Uh-huh.
Like she'd say something like, you tell that to yourself, thank you. Or, that's not helpful.
Wow, that's good.
Right. It's like she's setting a boundary, but doing it in a way that's assertive but not aggressive.
Yeah, not getting into a fight about it.
Exactly.
So smart.
And she's taking back her power by refusing to let those comments control her emotional state.
Right. And what's even more impressive is her conscious effort to respond with compassion rather than anger.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
She recognizes that her family might be operating from their own learned behaviors.
It takes a lot of maturity and self-awareness to get to that point.
It really does. It's not easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And her journey highlights an essential truth.
Hmm.
We can't control other people's actions, but we can control our reactions.
We can. That's something we all have control over.
So true. Now, let's talk about a different kind of influence. Her boyfriend.
Ooh, interesting. A positive influence.
Yeah, well, she describes him as this incredibly supportive partner who makes her feel beautiful just as she is.
That's great. Everyone deserves that.
Right. And she even describes him as the human embodiment of a rom-com montage.
Okay, I can picture it.
It seems like he plays a big part in helping her challenge those negative beliefs she's internalized.
You're right to point that out.
Yeah, and it really underscores the power of surrounding ourselves with people who celebrate us for who we are.
It's like having a whole cheer squad on your side.
Especially when we're trying to challenge those deeply ingrained beliefs.
For sure.
But before we delve further into that, I think it's important to examine how her cultural background might play a role in how she interprets and reacts to these comments.
Oh, that's an important point.
So we've talked about generational trauma, but her Thai upbringing adds another layer to this conversation. Could her cultural background affect how she views body image?
Absolutely. Cultural norms around body image vary so widely.
Yeah, like what's considered desirable in one culture might be totally different in another.
Right. And in some cultures, comments about weight and appearance were considered a normal part of social interaction,
Oh, really?
even a form of care.
So while Meinamsern might find those comments hurtful,
Yeah,
her family might genuinely believe they're being helpful or expressing concern.
exactly. It's not coming from a bad place.
It's a clash of perspectives.
It is. And navigating those cultural differences can be tricky, especially when it involves family.
For sure.
It's about finding a way to honor your own feelings and needs while also respecting their intentions.
Yeah, like even if you don't agree with their approach.
Totally.
Okay, I'm starting to see how complex this all is.
Yeah, it's not simple.
It's not just about individual feelings, it's about cultural context, generational patterns, and the way those things all intersect.
Exactly. It's a multifaceted issue.
And Meinamsern is navigating it with remarkable self-awareness and resilience.
She is. She's doing an amazing job of handling it all.
And she's doing it while embracing a whole range of self-care strategies.
Yeah, she's got a good plan.
She mentions things like daily affirmations,
Okay.
setting boundaries,
Right.
finding enjoyable movement, and surrounding herself with positive influences.
Sounds like a good recipe for success.
Can we dive into some of these strategies a bit deeper?
Let's do it. Which one do you want to start with?
Well, I'm really curious to hear more about her approach to affirmations.
Okay, cool. Yeah, she actually admits that she initially found daily affirmations a bit cheesy,
Uh-huh. Yeah, I can see that.
but she stuck with it.
Good for her.
And eventually those positive statements started to resonate with her.
Yeah. I guess it's like anything else. You have to give it a chance.
Right. And she even shares a specific affirmation that really helped shift her mindset.
Oh, wow. What is it?
It is. My body is strong and capable, and I am grateful for all it does for me.
Oh, I love that.
It's a good one.
It's simple, but powerful.
It is.
Did she say anything about how she overcame that initial cringe factor?
Yeah. She mentioned that she started small, just repeating a few simple affirmations each day.
Okay.
And she also focused on affirmations that felt authentic to her, rather than trying to force herself to believe something she didn't.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. And over time, as she repeated these affirmations, she found that they started to chip away at her negative self-talk.
So it's about consistency and finding affirmations that genuinely resonate with you.
Exactly. It's like retraining your brain to focus on the positive.
And it's a form of cognitive behavioral therapy, right?
It is. It's a technique used to identify and challenge those negative thought patterns.
So by consciously choosing to focus on positive thoughts, we can gradually rewire our brains.
Totally. And create a more positive self-image.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, let's talk about setting boundaries.
Okay, cool.
She mentions that it's crucial, especially with family. But how did she go about setting those boundaries without causing too much friction?
Well, she emphasizes that it's an ongoing process.
I see.
And it doesn't have to be confrontational.
Oh.
It can be as simple as choosing not to engage in conversations about weight or appearance.
Oh, right.
She gives an example of how when a relative commented on her food choices,
Yeah,
she simply said, "I'm enjoying this meal, thank you."
that's great.
Right. It's a polite but firm way of steering the conversation in a different direction.
It's about setting boundaries without creating a big dramatic scene.
Exactly. No need for drama.
And it sounds like she's found a good balance between asserting her needs and maintaining those family relationships.
It's a delicate balance,
It is.
but she's navigating it with grace and wisdom.
Now, I'm curious to hear more about her approach to movement.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
She mentions finding enjoyable movement, not as a way to punish herself or to shrink her body,
Right.
but to celebrate what her body can do.
I love that.
It's not about conforming to societal pressures or trying to achieve a certain body ideal.
Right.
It's about finding activities that bring her joy and allow her to connect with her body in a positive way.
Exactly.
And for her, that means dancing.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. She talks about how dancing makes her feel free, energized, and connected to her body's natural rhythms.
That's beautiful.
It's about moving your body because it feels good, not because you feel like you have to.
I love that shift in perspective.
It can be incredibly empowering.
For sure.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Cultural influences, generational patterns, self-care strategies,
Lots to unpack.
and the importance of positive relationships.
Yeah, we've been busy.
It's clear that Mina Mayestern has done a lot of work to cultivate a healthy and positive relationship with her body.
She's really put in the effort.
But I'm curious, before we move on to discuss her other self-care strategies and the impact of her boyfriend's support,
Okay.
did she have any other specific experiences growing up that really shaped her journey?
Actually, yes. She mentions a specific incident that really stuck with her.
Oh, wow. What happened?
When she was about 12 years old, her aunt,
Okay.
who is considered the stylish one in the family,
Uh-huh.
made a comment about her weight during a family gathering,
Oh, I can imagine how hurtful that must have been.
especially at such a young age.
Yeah, it's tough at that age.
So she said, "You're getting a bit chubby, aren't you? You should watch what you eat."
Oh, wow.
And even though it was said in a lighthearted tone, it really cut deep.
I bet.
My name Cern talks about how that comment made her feel self-conscious and ashamed of her body.
It's amazing how much words can affect us.
It is.
It planted a seed of doubt that lingered for years.
It's hard to shake those things off.
That's so heartbreaking.
It is.
It just goes to show how seemingly innocuous comments can have a lasting impact, especially when they come from people we admire or respect.
And it also highlights how those early experiences can shape our beliefs about ourselves and our bodies, often without us even realizing it.
Right. And those comments become part of our internal narrative.
Playing on repeat in our minds.
Exactly. So what does Meinamsern say about overcoming those negative messages that have become so ingrained?
Well, she emphasizes that it's a process, not a quick fix.
Okay.
And it starts with awareness.
Okay, so recognizing those negative thoughts and patterns.
It's the first step.
Okay, so once you're aware of those negative thoughts, what's next?
That's where those self-care strategies we mentioned earlier come into play. Things
Okay.
like affirmations, setting boundaries, and finding enjoyable movement
Right.
all work together to create a more positive and empowering internal environment.
I like that. It's like building yourself a little fortress of positivity.
Totally. And she also talks about the importance of surrounding herself with positive influences, people who uplift her and make her feel good about herself.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's like creating a support system to counter those negative messages.
But before we delve deeper into that support system and how it's helped her, I think it's important to address another crucial aspect of her journey.
Okay, what's that?
The power of self-compassion.
Oh, that's a really important point. Self-compassion plays a huge role in Meinamsern's story.
Absolutely. She talks about how she used to be really hard on herself, especially when she didn't live up to her own expectations.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right. But over time, she's learned to be kinder to herself,
Yeah,
to embrace her imperfections,
right,
and to celebrate her progress,
right.
rather than focusing on her perceived flaws.
It's a crucial shift in mindset.
Instead of beating herself up for not being perfect,
Yeah.
she's choosing to treat herself with the same kindness and understanding that she would offer a friend.
That's so powerful.
That's like she's giving herself permission to be human, to make mistakes, and to learn and grow from those experiences.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective is essential for anyone who's on a journey of self-love and acceptance.
Well, before we wrap up part one of our deep dive, I'd love to hear more about the impact of Meinamsern's boyfriend's unwavering support.
Okay, let's delve into that in part 2.
Awesome. We'll explore how his positive influence has helped her see herself in a new light.
And how those external validations can pave the way for deeper self-acceptance.
Sounds good. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Welcome back, everyone.
So before the break, we were talking about Meinamsern's boyfriend.
Right, the human embodiment of a rom-com montage.
Exactly. Constant compliments, genuine reassurance,
All that good stuff.
and zero focus on what she should look like.
Right, it's like he sees her for who she is and loves her for it.
It almost sounds too good to be true.
I know. But it just goes to show how much our relationships can impact our self-perception.
So true. When we're surrounded by people who genuinely see our value and celebrate our uniqueness,
It makes a world of difference.
yeah, it becomes easier to internalize those positive messages.
It's like they're holding up a mirror reflecting back our own beauty and worth,
Oh, I like that.
helping us to see ourselves through a more loving lens.
Exactly. And in Meinamsern's case, her boyfriend's consistent affirmation and acceptance seem to be playing a crucial role in dismantling those negative beliefs she's internalized over the years.
It's like he's helping her rewrite the script.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
But do you think that external validation, like the kind she's receiving from her boyfriend, can actually pave the way for deeper self-acceptance?
That's a really good question.
It seems like a bit of a chicken and egg situation.
It is complex. While it's true that self-love ultimately needs to come from within,
Right?
External validation can be a powerful catalyst for that journey.
Oh, okay.
Think of it as a jumpstart for our self-esteem.
Okay, I can see that.
When we hear positive affirmations from people we trust and care about, it can help to chip away at those negative beliefs we hold about ourselves.
So it's like planting seeds of self-love.
Exactly. Seeds that can eventually blossom into a stronger sense of self-worth.
And it sounds like Meinam Cern is also actively cultivating that internal sense of self-love through her self-care practices, right?
Yes, she's doing all the right things.
We talked about affirmations, boundaries, movement, but are there any others she highlights in her blog?
Yes. She also emphasizes the importance of surrounding herself with positive influences beyond her relationship.
Okay, interesting. Like what?
This includes things like carefully curating her social media feeds,
Okay.
seeking out inspiring books and podcasts,
Right.
and connecting with friends who uplift and empower her.
It's about being mindful of the messages we're consuming.
Right, exactly. And making choices that support our mental and emotional well-being.
It's like creating a positive echo chamber to counteract all the negative noise that's out there.
I love that, a positive echo chamber. It's about proactively seeking out those sources of inspiration and support that align with our values and goals.
And it sounds like Meinam Cern is doing a fantastic job of that.
She's a rock star.
She's surrounding herself with people, activities, and media that nurture her self-esteem and reinforce her journey towards body positivity.
And she's doing it with a refreshing sense of honesty and vulnerability.
Oh, yeah. Remember how she talked about body positivity not being about ignoring your insecurities, but about loving yourself through them?
Such an important distinction.
It's about acknowledging those negative thoughts and feelings,
Yeah.
but choosing not to let them define you.
Exactly. It's a much more realistic and relatable approach than the idea of achieving some perfect state of unwavering body confidence.
Because let's be real, who actually feels confident all the time?
No one. It's just not realistic.
Meinam Cern emphasizes that it's a journey, not a destination.
Right. She acknowledges that she has days when she feels amazing in her own skin,
Mm-hmm.
and other days when those old insecurities creep back in.
And that's okay.
It is. It's normal.
It's about recognizing that those negative thoughts are just thoughts,
Yeah.
not facts.
And that we have the power to choose which thoughts we want to give attention to.
That's such a powerful reminder. So we need to embrace the full spectrum of our experiences, right?
Yes. The ups and the downs.
The moments of confidence and the moments of self-doubt.
Exactly. All of it.
And do it without judgment.
It's about recognizing that those fluctuations are a normal part of being human.
Right.
And that our worth isn't tied to how we feel about our bodies on any given day.
Well said. Now, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier,
Okay, what's that?
that self-love ultimately needs to come from within.
Oh, yeah. That's crucial.
How does Meinam Cern address that in her blog?
She highlights self-compassion.
Right. We talked about how she's learned to be kinder to herself and embrace her imperfections.
It's like she's shifted from being her own harshest critic to becoming her own best friend.
Exactly. And she emphasizes that cultivating self-compassion is an ongoing practice.
It's not a one-time thing.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a loved one.
And that can be tough.
Do you think that receiving validation from others, like her supportive boyfriend, makes it easier to extend that same compassion to ourselves?
It definitely can. When we feel loved and accepted by others, it creates a sense of safety and security that allows us to be more vulnerable with ourselves.
I see.
It can help us soften those inner critic voices
Right.
and start to embrace our imperfections with more gentleness and understanding.
So it's like those external validations can create a ripple effect, leading to greater self-acceptance and ultimately a deeper sense of self-love,
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. It's about recognizing that we are worthy of love and acceptance.
both from others and from ourselves.
Exactly.
Well, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm really struck by Meinam Cern's courage and vulnerability in sharing her journey.
She's so open and honest.
It's clear that she's done a lot of inner work to get to this place of self-acceptance.
It's a lot of hard work.
And her story offers a powerful roadmap for others who are struggling with similar challenges.
It's really inspiring.
And speaking of small steps, let's move on to the final part of our deep dive,
Okay, sounds good.
where we'll explore some practical takeaways from Meinam Cern's story
Okay.
and discuss how we can apply her wisdom to our own lives.
I'm excited for that. Meinam Cern's journey offers a wealth of insights and actionable strategies for cultivating body positivity.
Yeah. And breaking free from those negative patterns.
Let's do it.
We've talked a lot about Meinam Cern's personal journey.
Yeah, she's been through a lot.
But now I want to shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about what we can all take away from this.
Yeah, what can we learn from her experience?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because her story is so relatable.
it really is.
I think there's a lot we can apply to our own lives.
I agree. What are some of the key takeaways for you?
Well, I think one of the biggest things for me is just how much those little comments can stick with you.
Oh, yeah, you mean those offhand remarks that people make about our bodies?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, even if they're not meant to be hurtful,
Right.
they can still have a real impact.
Especially if you hear them over and over again.
Yeah, and it makes me think about how important it is to be mindful of the language we use.
Oh, absolutely. Even in casual conversations.
Because we might not realize how our words are affecting other people.
Especially younger people who are still figuring things out.
Exactly. And I think it's also about challenging those negative comments when we hear them.
Yeah, we can't just let them slide.
Because if we do, we're just contributing to this culture where body shaming is normalized.
And that's not okay.
So it's about speaking up and saying, hey, that's not cool.
Right. And celebrating diversity in all its forms.
I love that. And it's not just about what we say.
Right.
It's also about how we move our bodies.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. Maya Nomasern talked about finding movement that you enjoy, not as punishment, but as a celebration of what your body can do.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a whole different way of thinking about exercise.
And it takes the pressure off of trying to achieve a certain body shape or size.
It's about connecting with your body in a positive way.
And I think that ties in so well with self-compassion.
Oh, absolutely. That's another huge takeaway from Maya Nomasern's story.
It's about treating ourselves with kindness,
Even when we're struggling.
which is hard. Do you have any tips for cultivating self-compassion?
Well, one thing that helps me is to talk to myself the way I would talk to a friend who's going through something tough.
Oh, that's good advice.
Yeah, because we're often way harder on ourselves than we would ever be on someone else.
So true. It's like we have this inner critic that's always on our case.
And we need to learn to silence that critic and replace it with a more compassionate voice.
And remember, self-compassion isn't about letting ourselves off the hook
Right.
or ignoring areas where we want to grow.
It's about approaching those areas with kindness and understanding.
So it's like giving ourselves permission to be human
And to make mistakes.
and to learn and grow from those mistakes.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah, it's been a great conversation.
what's the one message you hope our listeners will take away from Maya Nomasern's story?
I think the biggest takeaway is that body positivity is a journey.
Not a destination.
It's about progress, not perfection.
And it's something we all need to hear sometimes.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in this idea that we need to achieve some perfect state of body love.
And that's just not realistic.
But Maya Nomasern's honesty about her own ups and downs,
Yeah, her vulnerability is really inspiring.
it's a powerful reminder that it's all about the process.
And it's a process that's worth embracing.
Because when we cultivate body positivity, we not only improve our own well-being,
We also contribute to a more inclusive and accepting world for everyone.
so to all our deep divers out there, remember,
What?
you are worthy of love and acceptance just as you are.
Yes. Such an important message.
Keep challenging those negative messages
Celebrate your unique beauty.
and embrace the journey.
And never underestimate the power of small steps.
Every act of self-love
Every moment of body acceptance.
is a victory worth celebrating.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into body positivity.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
And we'll see you next time for another insightful exploration.